Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Former US Ambassador to Ukraine John Herbst joins us as tensions surge following reports that President Trump urged Volodymyr Zelenskyy to concede the Donbas to Russia. After a heated West Wing meeting and talk of a potential Trump-Putin summit in Budapest, questions swirl over Washington's shifting stance, Kyiv's defiance, and the impact on US credibility. We ask, what's driving this dramatic reversal, and what does it mean for the war's next phase? Mr. Ambassador, welcome to TVP World. Thanks for taking the time.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
The pleasure, sir. So how much credence do you place on these reports that Zelenskyy is being pressured by President Trump to give up the Donbas?
I think those reports are actually inaccurate. I think that there was an exchange on the issue of Putin's interest in having Ukraine gift him areas of Donbas that he has not conquered. But I have no information suggesting that Trump advocated that, or for that matter, that anyone on the U.S. side advocated that.
See, because there does seem to be have been a shift in President Trump's attitude to Ukraine. So, he had this 2-hour conversation with Putin, and then just after that he met with President Zelenskyy. And from all accounts, it was quite a heated conversation, and this was the sticking point. And Zelenskyy was saying, well, we simply can't do that. So what do you think actually happened in that process, especially the conversation with Putin?
My understanding is the following, that Special Envoy Witkoff in that meeting mentioned Putin's proposal for an end to the fighting that would require Ukraine to hand over the territory in western Donbas, which is strategically important, that Putin, again, has been unable to take by force. My understanding is that certainly Trump did not advocate that position, and even Witkoff did not advocate that position. They said this is what Russia was asking for. It's possible that that was a trial balloon to see what Zelenskyy would say, but again, I have no reports that anyone on the American side was advocating that Zelenskyy should do that.
Right, the mood.
So I think that report is...
Sorry, please continue.
Well, no, I think the report is inaccurate. But you talk about a shift in Trump's position. I think that that's not a mischaracterization. I think that Trump is mercurial, and he will have one view one day and a somewhat different view the next day. And there is a pattern that we've seen now 3 times where Trump, frustrated by Putin's deflection, if not rejection, of every peace proposal Trump has put on the table. And each of those proposals, Zelenskyy accepted. This goes back to March of this year. Trump then decides he needs to put pressure on Russia. He started to do this for the first time in May. And you may recall that on the second Sunday in May, Zelenskyy was meeting with 5 or 6 European leaders in London. They agreed that if Moscow did not agree to a ceasefire, the following day, they would put major new sanctions on Russia. They called Trump. Trump agreed. And then Putin, hearing the news of this, publicly proposed that he meet with Zelenskyy. And then Trump abandoned the notion of sanctions at that point. He endorsed the idea of a meeting. And of course, once Putin had removed the danger of new sanctions on Russia, he had no interest in seeing Zelenskyy. So that was the first time Trump did this. The second time was in August. Trump laid down a firm deadline of August 8th for Russia to stop shooting, or there would be major new sanctions on Russia and new weapon systems going to Ukraine. Putin met with Witkoff a few days before. He spoke with Trump on the phone. Trump decided to let the deadline slip without sanctions, and you had the summit in Alaska. And at the summit in Alaska, Putin showed no flexibility on making peace, making a durable peace. And so now we've seen the third time where this has taken place. Trump began to talk about providing Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles. I think Putin got nervous with Zelenskyy coming to Washington for a meeting. So he called Trump the day before, said, why don't you and I meet? And Trump decided, well, maybe now's not the time to give Russia Tomahawks. So there's been a pattern of Trump threatening major new pressure on the Kremlin, Putin offering negotiations, and Trump accepting that offer.
Is this? It sounds to many that this is simply a game that Putin is playing with Trump, and Trump is falling right into Putin's trap. Would you characterize it like that?
Well, 60% of Americans, according to polling, believe that Trump is being taken advantage of by Putin. Trump himself has mentioned several times, including this past week, that maybe Putin is playing him. But Trump also said this past week, but I've been played before and I've always come out on top. So to my mind, if Trump wants to achieve a durable peace, and I believe that's his goal, he's going to have to make it painful for Putin to continue the war. At some point, Trump's going to have to put that serious pressure on the Kremlin. He has not done it so far. I think at some point he will. I just don't know when.
Right. Where does this leave President Zelenskyy without his Tomahawks? Where does this leave Europe in terms of their role in supporting Ukraine?
Given the shift in emphasis by Trump regarding this war, the Europeans have realized that they need to take a stronger role supporting Ukraine, and they've been doing that since March, and that's a very good thing. Zelenskyy could use the Tomahawks. I think it's in American interest to provide them, but Zelenskyy and Ukraine could manage without them. So they are not, even if we provided them the Tomahawks, which again, I believe our interests demand, that's not going to end the war. It's just going to make it harder, much harder for Putin to prolong it. And that, coupled with other steps, could persuade Putin to give up his aim to conquer Ukraine. So Zelenskyy can live without it, Ukraine can live without it, but it's not the best move for the United States, and it's not a good for Ukraine, or for that matter, for Europe. But the fact that Trump has said, well, we're not providing Tomahawks today, does not mean he will refuse to provide Tomahawks tomorrow.
Right. Now, one gets the impression, if you look over the period of this full-scale, since the start of the full-scale invasion, that Europe has been rather passive. It has supplied Zelenskyy and Ukraine with material as and when possible. There have been conversations for support for Ukraine. But is it time now for Europe to become a little bit more aggressive in the way that it deals with Putin's aggression?
One, Europe has always provided major support for Ukraine, and there was a misunderstanding among some Trump supporters that Europe paid very little and the United States paid a lot for Ukraine, when in fact Europe always gave more than the United States. But you're right that Europe. Biden was timid in dealing with Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Europe was timid. And of course, the Germans were completely, I won't say completely in Putin's pocket, but the Germans were enabling Putin by going along with Nord Stream 2, which was a disgrace for them. And Biden let that happen, which was not good for Biden. But Europe, especially since March, as they saw Trump backing away from providing aid to Ukraine, has stepped up. Europe has provided more aid. Europe has talked about deploying troops into Ukraine, which was originally a Trump idea. So I think we've seen Europe do a good bit more over the past half year, and I think this trend will continue.
Ambassador Herbst, we shall be watching very carefully, and we look forward to seeing you again on our program. Thank you for taking the time, and have a good day.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. As always, lots more coming up. Goodbye.